Oh, all right. Welcome back to the podcast. Back to Tomboy Official. Here again, recording. I want to record about the next, segment of what happened once I moved out. So I moved out of that house with the roommate near USD. The one who had the child had divorced his wife before I even met him, and before I had moved in, and he had returned from, working and living in Vietnam for quite a few months. His mother had, I was living with a roommate temporarily while he was gone, and then she had been gone by this point, and his mom was still living with us, and I left that house because of her for the most part. Just wasn't a good fit for me. So I want to talk about what happened after I left from living in that house. So after I left from living in that house with, in that apartment, I remember around this time, that's when I had first started having some complications with my car's transmission. So I remember, getting that repaired. The first time. And so that's why I was, easily able to move when I needed to move, because I was using this loaner car from the mechanic. It was this old Mercedes, but much bigger than my car. I drive a very small Eclipse, a Mitsubishi Eclipse. I've had it since 2002. It's a 2003. No, yeah, it's a 2003. And so, yeah, I've driven this car all my life, with the exception of driving, the Aurora on occasion, the Oldsmobile Aurora on occasion, as a temporary vehicle that I've used. It's my dad's, and then, my brother's got a Murano that I kind of have used, not really as a backup car, but I've used it as in, I have driven it before in the past. I don't routinely drive it. I haven't driven it in a really long time. Usually I just move it out of the way if it's in the driveway, parked in a way that it's kind of blocking me or something. I'll usually drive it in that way. But otherwise, no, I don't really drive it. So yeah. So because I don't really drive it, because I only really drive my car, there's really been a lot that I haven't really had to deal with. But yeah, I was driving that Oldsmobile, and at some point in time. And so because I've mostly just driven my car, and never really until recently had any goals surrounding getting another car. That was just how it was. When that car would break down in any way, I would just get it fixed. And so at that point, I was getting the car fixed, but staying in, I moved into a hotel closer to work, closer to the border, because it was the cheapest hotel in town. Um, I don't remember the exact price, but I think it would run me back then. I think it was about 1,000 a month, from what I recall. Um, this is like maybe like 6 years ago. Maybe max 8 years ago, but I think it was about seven, maybe about 6, 7, like 7. I want to call it 7 years ago. I don't know. Because it was my third year in San Diego, about February of my third year in San Diego. So that means I would have been in my second practicum since that summer before February. So, yeah, that means it was my first year of working, which means it was like 7 years ago. If I say this December, it would have been 8 years this coming December of 2023. So, yeah, like 7 years ago. That's a long time ago. And so, yeah, back then you could live in a hotel for like 1,000 a month, pretty much, or extended stays. I think I would have stayed at an extended stay, but there wasn't one near me, and I think it was going to be like 15 to 1,800 a month or something, but there wasn't one near work. So I was like, well, I'll cut expenses on gas if I, am driving 10 15 minutes from work, which that was the time it took. It took about 10 to 15 minutes to get to work. And so I stayed there for a pretty long time. I remember I would eat the breakfast. I would get the breakfast. And it wasn't like a nice full breakfast though. It was like, continental, like the, cold cereal, or like you can make instant oats, or, like a Danish, or stuff like that. Like it wasn't like a full, like eggs, bacon, that kind of breakfast. It was just like basic cold food. So I would usually have a free breakfast, just take that with me. And I think sometimes maybe I would exercise, but I don't think I was going to the gym by this point. I think I had stopped going to the gym by my second year in San Diego, and this is like my third year in San Diego at this point. And I had stopped going to the gym. So, my spending wasn't fully in control, because I wasn't really budgeting at that time too much, and I was paying like almost double what I had been paying for rent. Like I had been paying like, how much? I think I paid per week. I paid weekly, and I paid, because at this point I was getting a paycheck. It was no longer financial aid. I was getting a paycheck. And that was my first time, I think, working full-time, like full-time work with no school. So I've worked, I would call it work. Like I'd had jobs before where I had worked full-time, but I was never getting like a full-time 40-hour work week paycheck. I was never doing that before. It was more like I would be at practicum for like 20 to 25 hours a week, not really getting paid, or have a stipend for like $100 or $200 a month. and like I've worked in labs before, so maybe I was on like a lab project, or worked at a school before where I was like teaching, so I'd have a class to teach in the mornings, and then I wouldn't work till later after, from like noon. I would pretty much not work until 3, and then I would work from 3 to 6 or something like that. And it wasn't every single day of the week because I was still taking classes. So I'd had jobs like that where it was like combined with school and work. So yes, it was like a full-time schedule. I've had a full-time schedule pretty much since high school, like, or school. Like, I went to school pretty much all my life, and then pretty much always maintained a full-time schedule, other than like the occasional year I took off here and there. I think I took 1 year off after grad school, before moving to San Diego, and another year I took off before I got into grad school, or like maybe it was most of the year, trying to get into, when I first was starting to get into Cal State LA. So that was like 3 years before I moved, 3 or 4 years before I moved down to San Diego for that grad program, because that was a doctoral program in San Diego. So I went, so I was living at this hotel, paying weekly. I remember I'd pay weekly, and then, I had to, because there's like a checkout time, and so I would check out at like 11, and then I think at this time I did have storage. I forgot to say I did have storage because I had moved all my stuff from that apartment, and because I knew I was going to have these check-in, check-out times, because initially I was first looking, sorry, I'm not really organized discussing this, but I was first looking to move back in with other roommates, and I was like, once I got a taste after like a week of like living by myself in the hotel, I was like, I ran the numbers and I was like, I can afford this. This isn't that bad, I could just stay here, So I was just like, I'm just going to stay here. This doesn't really, matter. I got my car back. Now my car wasn't working good. Like, the gears were still like shifting hard. Like, it would like shift hard between like, like, yeah, it would shift pretty hard, is it called RPMs? Like, every time it would go past like 1, it would shift hard, and then if I got up to 2, it would shift hard again. And so, yeah, the transmission, even though they fixed it, because initially it just wasn't driving fast, like, that makes sense. Like, the gears weren't catching. Initially, it was driving way slow. And yeah, I went a while with no car, but the time when I had no car, it was easy to move because I had that car that was bigger than mine, so I was able to just move my stuff in the storage and then have a car where I could keep more stuff in the trunk because I was staying in a hotel. So I kept more stuff in the trunk, and then when I needed to check out, I would kind of check out, but move my stuff out of the room, but I would request the same room every time. And so I would move my stuff out from the room and then request to check back in at 3 p.m., like at the start of every month or whatever. Or maybe it was every 4 weeks. I don't know if it was exactly 30 days. I think it was maybe 28 days because you couldn't stay for 30 days or something. I don't remember. This was so long ago. But, yeah, so I did it that way. Every 28 days I paid, every 4th week. I mean, every week I paid. I paid every week. No, I paid every week, not every 4th week. But I do remember there was like a weird little checkout process, and then because they were chill with me, and like, so I basically wouldn't leave anything of like value in the room. It would just be like a few clothes or whatever, Maybe some toiletries, like stuff that like if somebody stole it, I'd be like, okay, that sucks, but I can just get more. Like it wasn't like a whole lot of stuff, but just so I didn't have to like move my stuff out like every single day when I went to work, because I was working full time. I would just go to work at the hotel, and then I was staying at the hotel. Um, I was enjoying it for the most part, but my physical health wasn't that good. My mental health wasn't great because my physical health wasn't good, but I was stressed, but things were fine. Things were fine for a while until once I got my car back, um, the transmission was not fully repaired. I remember during this point, sometime, me and a couple friends took a trip up to LA. There was one friend I really wanted to go with, but another friend decided to kind of come into the trip, which I didn't really want them there, but I kind of wanted more time alone with this one person. But me trying to be nice, I let the other person come with us, and it just, I mean, they weren't really friends, so it was just not the best of ideas. But I really, that's when I noticed, driving to and from LA, and one day, it was a day trip. I showed them around Hollywood basically and stuff, and then around my area, and they met my parents and got some garden veggies and stuff, and my parents fed us all pizza, and then we all kind of went back to San Diego that night. And my dad was like, why don't you guys just stay at the house? And I was like, nah, we gotta go. And so we didn't stay the night, and then we went back down to San Diego, and yeah, my car was like shifting hard still, like it was running, but it was shifting really hard like that. So like every time I had to go from idle to like, driving again, I would feel the car just like shift. It would kind of jerk. And so that happened a lot, like pretty much the whole ride there and the whole ride back. And my friends were the ones that were like, hey, maybe you should get that looked at. And I was like, yeah, that guy is the one who looked at my car. Because one of them, somebody had told me about this mechanic, because I needed a mechanic that would lend me a car. And my friend was like, yeah, he's not the best mechanic, but he has a car that he lends out. So, I ended up paying again for the transmission repairs. And it should have been under warranty, but I don't know, like maybe I wasn't thinking about it, and I was talking too much. And I did say something about like, oh yeah, I can afford it because I have like student loans or whatever. And then I told him that's what I told him the first time. But then the second time, when he said how much it was gonna run me, I was like, dude, you just fixed it, so how am I gonna pay again for the same stupid problem? But it's just a different problem, but still a transmission issue. But because I had talked too much and he knew that I had like financial aid, he was like, well, you can do like this payment plan or whatever, where I paid like $250 like every so often or whatever. No, maybe I told him I had financial aid, but I was like working, or maybe, no, because I was working at this time. I'm pretty sure I was working at this time. So I don't really know. I honestly can't really remember to be completely truthful about that. But I do think I was working. I think I had been maybe like, this is like my second or so month into working at the place where I had my second practicum. I had been at the practicum from, let's say, I don't know what month, let's call it August. So let's say I started August or September. Shoot, I need to start heading. I gotta start heading back to the house so I can beat the school traffic, because otherwise I'm gonna be sitting here another 40 minutes. Okay, so yeah, I think now I'm not 100% sure, because again, this is like all happening so long ago. that I don't like fully recall. So, sorry, I'm trying to back out and there's people who just keep walking behind my car. Oh my gosh. Move. Alright. Trying to get out of here. Alright, so what was I saying? So yeah, there was this process with the car, and then from there I was like, oh shoot, like I can't really afford, this hotel if I have to pay another $1,000, because that would have been my hotel money. Because I think I had like $1,000 set aside or something. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember. This is so long ago. But at the same time, I wasn't like really good with money. Like I was just like my credit was decent enough that like if I ever needed loans or whatever, I found out I could just get them right away. So I was like, shoot, I'll just do payday loans and installment loans. And I got into that habit to pay for stuff. And I didn't really know. Like I was just like, hey, money, like this is a way to get a couple $1,000 if I need it, $5,000 if I need it. Like I didn't really like think about it. There was no planning. I hadn't done that kind of planning before. I never learned about it, nothing. And so, the finances started getting a little complex. And this is right after the time that, my school program had also ended, right before this time period. So I wasn't doing that good. I had all those issues that had just been going on with the house situation, housemate, and then I had all these issues that were going on, with my car and with my finances and all these other stressful things that I just wasn't able to manage it all. But I also didn't think about like, what should I do as steps to kind of like plan to get things managed. I was just like, let me just do whatever it takes for the week to get the job done, So I do remember having some debt, but I don't remember the details of it. I've like wiped it from my memory, thank God. Like I really don't remember the details of it, but I'm not even gonna sit and pretend like, oh yeah, I had it all under control and everything was perfect. That is not the case. Like I felt like my life was like kind of falling apart because I just, lost a situation where, school wasn't working out and I was just trying to stay afloat, so it's like school wasn't working out, housing wasn't working out, car situation wasn't going too good, getting into debt, not really focused or paying attention or even like thinking twice about finances. Like I just never crossed my mind because I was like, well, I make money, I have an income, so I never really thought about the actual logical process of, can I afford this? What can I afford? So I eventually had to find a place to stay. I had to find roommates, housemates, which I did do. And I stayed with them for quite some time. But I had to find someone to live with where it was going to be cheaper than what I was paying to rent at the hotel, or not rent, but stay at the hotel, because I was making $18 an hour, and I wasn't even bringing home all my paychecks because I had these like installment loans and things, so I wasn't getting all my money. Like I would get like a little over $1,000 per paycheck, I believe, but yeah, I don't remember. Honestly, I'd have to go back and look at the actual numbers. I really don't remember off the top of my head. But, yeah, that was stressful. It was not fun. It was stressful. It was a really hard time. But, yeah, at that time, I kind of had someone that I was really into. They were having issues of their own. They were gonna move somewhere where there's like no way I would have been able to like see this person. Like they weren't gonna move anywhere near me. Like it wasn't even within driving distance. It wasn't even New York. Like it was far. Like it was like really far. So I was like, well, you know, I don't know if that's when that situation ended with that person. I can't remember the timeline, but I do remember just it wasn't a happy year. It wasn't a happy time period for me, but you know, living alone helped. I guess my complaints about the hotel, motel, whatever. It was a travel lodge. It was a San Ysidro travel lodge in San Ysidro, or I don't know if it was San Ysidro or Chula Vista. I don't know, but I think it was called the travel lodge in San Ysidro. So it was like a couple exits from the border, a couple exits from what is it? That big shopping center by the border. I can't remember the name of it. Las Americas, is that? I think it's called Las Americas or something like that. I don't remember, but it wasn't far from there at all, and it was really close to work because I worked in Chula Vista, and so it sucked, man. It sucked. It was a time period that sucked, but I got a little bit of relief from living in the hotel, and that's one thing I would tell people is, you know, if you have extra money, just to go to a hotel. That can be very helpful, you know. I mean, nowadays hotels can cost like, even the cheap, crappy motels can be like $150 a month, so or a day. So like, it's not really doable nowadays, I don't think. But back then, it's like you could stay, like I mentioned, you could stay at an extended stay for like $1,500 a month back then. Now it's over like $2,000, and they don't let you stay the whole month. It's like 28 days or something. I don't know. But yeah, like my complaints would be the Wi-Fi sucked. Like it was good during non-peak hours, but during peak hours it was like I couldn't even watch like YouTube. Like the Wi-Fi sucked pretty badly without having to like you'd have to load up videos and stuff. You couldn't just smoothly go on the internet. So that was a bummer. Let me see what else. It was loud. There's a like right next door, there's a, like my room was facing this like trailer park lot, this trailer park area. I think it was like a trailer park lot, and there were like, you know, mobile homes parked on it because people lived there. And so, you know, when I would get home from work, or to the hotel rather, from work, I would not have good Wi-Fi. I would have to listen to people while they were outside having little cookouts and just chilling with their neighbors and talking and playing music loud. So I would have to listen to that every evening when I got back. And it wasn't excessively loud, but I could hear it, and it wasn't late. They didn't do it late, but I can hear it, you know. It's not like there was nothing happening. So I would come back to things going on that I was like, this sucks, you know. Like it wasn't like peace and quiet, or like, you know, so it wasn't like total comfort, and it wasn't even like on the property, so like who am I gonna tell, you know? And they weren't like doing any, like they were just living their lives in their mobile park. Like they weren't doing, like, you know what I mean? Like there's a difference between like someone blasting the music so it's like rattling your windows and stuff, and like too much bass and like, you know, screaming and like excessive like drinking, like public drunkenness, and just acting like just really belligerent. Like it wasn't like that. It was just like they would come home or start their evenings, you know, around 6 p.m. or so, and I would get there a little after 5 p.m. So around 6 p.m. they would get there, and they would start like cooking their dinners and stuff, and it was just, they were just living their life. So it was like, it wasn't something, it was annoying for sure, but it wasn't something that I felt a need to be like, okay, I need to tell somebody. And they weren't doing it late. Like I feel like by 9 it would be done. But you know, I couldn't keep the windows open. Like the ceiling was leaking. I remember the ceiling would leak in the hotel, but it leaked towards the ground at the foot of my hotel bed, so it wasn't like it was leaking on anything. But I usually kept the towel there so that it could show. But yeah, like, I definitely got financially kind of beat, and, you know, I got kind of not physically, not actually abusively beat by like roomies, but like in a way, kind of like the roomie situation kind of beat me, and then the hotel situation kind of beat me. And so I was kind of like, damn, like this is a lot to be going through, you know. So I was just partying my ass off. Like, you know, I was going to gay clubs all the time, bars, like Wednesday night, Friday night, Saturday, Thursday, like Sunday, like 3-4 times a week I was out. And that's how I coped. And it wasn't the healthiest way of coping because it cost so much money. So I did start racking up a lot of debt around then. And that was probably one of the more stressful periods of my life. I don't know if it was the most stressful, but there had been a lot of consecutive stressors like from that point. So I don't know, like I kind of always had a lot kind of going down, but yeah, it wasn't like the easiest of like settings or situations, but yeah. All right, so for today, B-Day, let me see, I guess May 2nd, just reviewing that day. It was a pretty chill day. It was a pretty good day. I was able to kind of have my you know, experiences with I don't know, like Tuesday was like, I was basically just getting my healthcare situated, and my healthcare plan situated, appointments and everything, and trying to figure out what's going on with my studying, because I've been trying to do a lot of studying, yeah, but outside of just trying to study, like, I haven't really done anything too much more than that. Like, going to the gym a little bit. I went to the gym yesterday wearing my long pants, my cargos. They're like utility pants. I don't know, I didn't want to go all the way back home to get shorts. And then, yeah, I mean, I'm glad I did it. I kind of pulled a back muscle, and it was kind of hurting last night. I woke up from the heater being on too high, and then, because I was a little bit too warm, and then my back was a little bit sore at the time. But overall, I felt pretty good, after kind of like getting the appointment scheduled. But I was kind of a little bummed and stressed out before that, so I don't really know. But yeah, like, I'm definitely struggling with the part of trying to kind of figure out what's going on from one point to the next. So, yeah, but I don't know. But I'm trying to figure out what's going on. My parents are kind of like walking around out here and stuff. But I don't really know. I don't really know what that's all about. But yeah. So I don't really know. Yeah, it was weird. I'm just like sitting outside in the car and like, my dad comes out and walks out here and just like walks around by the side of my car and like by the other side of the car. It looks like he's checking on some of the plants or whatever, but I don't know. Whatever. But yeah. I don't know. But I don't know. Like, I don't really know what to say. Like, I'm ready to kind of start back to work, but it's really hard. Like, I'm really having a hard time with it, with the whole situation. It's just a lot to balance and manage. So yeah, I thought a lot about that last night and just was trying to like do a lot of internal work on that kind of experience that I've been having lately. And then next time, like, I don't really know. Like, I think I'm gonna have another day, I guess, like, with reflecting. Probably Sundays. I'll see how I feel about being a little more lenient on Sundays. I can't really make out, like, why I'm so foggy, though. I have been sleeping a little bit better, like, actually going back to bed when I wake up too early. This is the second night that happened. The second morning that happened. So getting up a little bit later. But, I try not to get up too late. Like, I try not to have my day starting too late. But at the moment I'm recording, this is Weed Wednesday. I'm recording May 3rd. About May 2nd. So I feel like May 2nd was a little bit more of a push. The guy who was doing construction on our house on the roof, he's not doing it anymore right now, and we're kind of just hanging out. So I don't know, I'm just hanging out in the house, listening to music. I'll probably work on some music. My dad's making oxtail for dinner, so I'm kind of waiting to make some eat some oxtail. I don't really like eating late, but my folks eat late, and it's kind of a way. It kind of in a way is a way for me to stay a little more isolated, so I don't have to interact with people. Like, I find interacting sometimes to be a bit stressful. I don't have the best of good communication history with my folks, and so, I'm a bit of a sensitive person, and they're kind of not, so it's kind of just not a good combination. Like, but, I think, they try, I try, like, but I feel like for myself, just limiting interaction is best. Like, I try to, like, at least talk a bit in passing, but I mean, I'd rather just not, like, and I'm kind of like that with roommates in general, with housemates in general. Like, I just, don't tend to always like to talk to people I'm living with. Like, I haven't really lived with people that I actually want to live with. And usually I'm like so overwhelmed from being busy. It's like, I don't have energy to be giving to people. At the end of the day, it's like my energy is mine, and I feel like, I know a lot of people that at the end of the day, they want to kind of like combine lives and like share a lot and stuff. And I'm kind of not always I'm not like daily like that with everybody. Like, I'm kind of like that with friends, but I'm not really like that with a lot of people. Just trying to be like connected on a daily. Like, there's not like a lot of people who I prefer to be involved with the play-by-play of my kind of daily life, but as far as family members, but like, I'm close with my siblings and stuff. I wouldn't really mind if they want to talk more and stuff. And I'm not like not close to my folks. Like, we can live in peace together, but it's still like, I don't really trust it, if that makes sense. Like, every now and then it's like, I don't really know if it's gonna go well or not, or just what. So I don't know. I'm trying to see kind of like what things look like. Get help for the stuff I'm trying to get help for. Keep it pushing with the stuff I'm trying to do as far as goals. But at the moment, it's just trying to be ready for what I need to do. That's really hard for me right now. Like, that's probably the hardest thing that's draining the most of my energy, is like, I need to be working soon. I thought I would be working in April, but I did spend a lot of time in April kind of like freaking out a little bit. Like, I did get sick for like a little over a week, and that put me behind, and then I got a little discouraged, and then I got a little unfocused, and was applying to jobs and interviewing and stuff for any field of stuff that I don't even really want to do, like food delivery type things. And I'm just like, why would I go do that? Like, I have more than one degree. Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with food delivery. I'm just saying, like, I was putting so much effort and energy into that, and kind of got a little worn down from that process of applying. And I'm like, man, like, why did I put so much energy into that for like a week or two? And so I think it was about 3 weeks I was kind of not really on point. Like, I was being productive and felt like I was doing what I needed to do. But, coming into May, I'm kind of having to kind of reverse a little bit and, make up some of the time and effort of what I've not completed. And I'm just trying to, relax, trying to take it easy, and also stay motivated. Like, I've got low energy, but in a way I have desire and motivation, but just the energy behind it is hard to maintain, and the focus, is hard to maintain, and just concentration and memory and things like that. So it's just kind of like so slow going. Like, it's hard to really trust the process of things, but I'm not doing like badly, if that makes sense. Just things aren't going simple. But that's okay, like, I'll get where I'm trying to go. I've got big goals, and I had big goals before, gave it a shot, didn't work out that smoothly, but I landed in a place that was decent enough to kind of stay for 7 years. Well, almost 10 years, if you count the starting to finish process of that. But I definitely learned a lot, so I don't, you know, it's a learning process, I've definitely learned a lot around the way, and I try to look at the things that didn't go well and try to see, like, what it was. And ultimately, on my end of things, there were a lot of things as far as my physical and mental health that, I wasn't good at really managing, as far as like eating right, exercising, maintaining like decent stress levels, working on my sleep, being around like positive people. Like, I think I was around positive people, but there was a lot of like drinking. Like, we would talk and stuff. Like, I had people I trusted that I could talk to, and we could kind of like dive into things. But, it wasn't, at that time, I think all we really wanted to do was party. Like, none of us were really taking things too seriously. But I felt, I don't know, like, I was younger then, there wasn't a lot of pressure on a lot of things. That was kind of my time to kind of just screw around. And the things that went wrong, I'm glad they went wrong when they did. It didn't go wrong when I was like a little older and like needing things to be pretty solid. Like, I had there was a buffer for error there. And I'm not really down on myself about it, not anymore. Like, I've talked about the supervisors I've had and stuff, and like a lot of the people with narcissistic traits and things that definitely led me to kind of like continue on a path of having to deal with them. And just that just kind of wrecked a lot for me. But but I think being out of that field will definitely change things. I think it'll be nice to be around people who are more, not more career focused, I don't want to say it that way, but more focused on, not trying to get their fix from, preying on their staff or whatever. Like, it's not like every person in a higher position was like that, but there are enough of them that I definitely saw some stuff go down that I was like pretty shocked that was an option of, how people choose to work, or how people choose to, manage a work environment. So I don't know. Things could have been worse. It was fine. I had an okay time overall. Definitely made some lifelong friends, and I'm looking forward to being back near them. It's just, it's a long route to get there, and it's very, very exhausting. But I'm definitely dealing with a lot these days. Mostly I'm just dealing with myself. That's the hardest thing right now, honestly. Just dealing with myself, getting myself together. I feel like overall I've improved a lot with working on my health and everything, and a little bit of the social stuff and that kind of thing, and just kind of squaring away, my schedule and keeping on tweaking it to a point where it's working for me. But, I've got more planning to do about it still too, though. I want to make sure I'm just really totally on point, I want to make sure I'm not continuing to not get my needs met, and continuing to go down a path where my health is going to deteriorate, and where I'm not going to be able to kind of, function well, Like, once I get a new position, I want to be functioning in it. And I don't know if I'm really there yet. Like, with my mind, the way that it's operating lately, I don't really think I'm quite where I need to be. But things are getting better, though. Like, everything's better. Like, I've been here almost a year. About 11 months total, and things are going good. I'm not, things aren't going bad for me necessarily. It's just, I got to be patient with the process of it all. And so I'm trying to practice the patience I need and continue to work hard. This is an opportunity that I have to be able to do it. So, I think it's a good decision, but it's also not an easy decision. It would have been easier to some extent just to get another roommate, stay in San Diego, and just stayed at the same job, disliking the job, disliking that I don't have any chance for upward mobility in the field or in the company, and just stay there. That was comfortable, but I was like, I'm not going to reach any goals in that way. And, I did what I had to do. I talked to the right people and saw if they could, give me what I was asking for, get me close to it, and they wouldn't budge. And so I'm like, well, I know where you stand now. Your loyalty's not to your staff's financial goals. Your loyalty's not to your staff. Like, they weren't trying to move me up. When I think about it, I'm not bitter about it, but when I think about one of the conversations I had about the previous clinic where I first worked at when I moved to San Diego, well, not when I first worked at, but when I first started working at, that was my second practicum. When I think of it now, I'm like, they were going to offer me my old job back. Like, I was working at that job for 5.5 years or something, and they were going to offer me that same job back. And I'm like, really? Like, you're not even going to give me, like, a chance to, move up at all? Like, they weren't trying to move me up. It's like, at that point, I'd already been in the field for, like, 7 years, and you want me to go back to the same job I had 7 years ago when I started? It's like, yeah, the pay rate was more, but it's because the contract changed, and so everyone's pay rate would have been more, but it still wasn't what I was asking. And I know there are people getting paid what I was asking, and so I'm like, well, what's in it for me, Like, I'm not bitter about it. Like, it was an opportunity, but it was an opportunity I passed because I was like, it's comfortable, but I would have still been having to have roommates, and I would have still not been able to move. Like, they weren't offering me, after having left for 2 years working at a different site, they weren't offering me a better position or a chance to move up or anything that would have had more to it. Like, it would have been a little less work because they've changed some of the policies. So a lot of the excessiveness of the paperwork would have been different. And yeah, the pay would have been more, but the pay would have been basically still leaving me, like, with inflation, basically the pay rate would have been the same rate I was making. Pretty much. It would have evened out. Like, they were going to offer me like 30 something, and I was making 18 when I first started. For like 5 years I was making like $18 an hour. And then they wanted to offer me like the minimum, which was like, I can't remember now if it was like 32 or something. Which is good money, but I'm like, I've been at, and that's the minimum pay rate for the job. Like, they would have offered me the minimum rate and the same job back. And I'm like, wait, that doesn't really make any sense, because you're not giving me a pay rate increase necessarily, because I still would have been making the minimum rate at that job. And they couldn't do anything about it. So I was like, well, if you can't do anything about it, I can't do anything about it, Like, I explained to them, I was like, in order for me to get an apartment, I have to be making at least 40, if not more. And they didn't want to do that. So, it kind of forced me to kind of go in this tech direction, which isn't a direction I'm unhappy about. It's just, there's definitely a lot of fear attached to it, a lot of uncertainty, and just a lot of, Like, what if it doesn't work out? Like, that will not be pleasant. But I've never had a bad work reputation. I've never had a bad work ethic. And I've also never had a break this long. So, even in school, I've never had a break this long. Like, so... Like, even, like, summer break isn't this long, as long as I've been off work, So I've never, ever had a break this long in my life. Other than those years that I took off, but I was still working those years and studying all the time. So those years I wasn't really technically off, so... And they went by quicker, too. But, yeah... I mean, it's a lot of change, but that's what I gotta do. But yeah, if I start posting less, that's why. Like, I'm just dealing with all this stuff. Like, it's not because I'm, I know I forgot one of my podcasts to post on time. I thought I posted it yesterday, and then I ended up not saving it, I guess. And then when I woke up this morning, I was like, oh shoot, I didn't post it. So I posted it in the morning. Not when I woke up, but like, it was sometime after I woke up, I posted it, in the morning. But yeah. But that's it for now. I mean, that gets us up to date with, May 2nd, May 3rd, up until dinner time, pretty much, of May 3rd. Today I'm just in. Probably get some exercise after dinner. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I should just completely rest my back today. But yeah, I'm hoping we'll eat dinner soon because my parents like to take forever, but I don't know. But with that, thanks for listening.